that was awkward. Live from the What Do You Mean Towers, it is episode 9 of the Awkward Encounters podcast, starring me, Jared, and Noah.
No.
And
starring you, Noah, and me, Jared. You're so bad at this. This is why I do it.
Me, Jared, and Noah over there.
You are Noah, you dumbass.
Okay. We got episode 9. We're almost at double digits. We have a special episode planned for next week.
We do.
And by special, just the person that we're bringing on.
And by planned, we mean not planned at all.
Yes. Yes.
And by next week, we mean hopefully.
We're gonna worry about the here and now, which is right now, live.
Here.
Live as we're talking, but not live to the people listening.
That is true.
Episode 9 of our podcast. We have a guest.
We do.
Our second 2-time guest, Mr. J over here.
Yahtzee.
So
Welcome.
What's up?
Jay was in our first podcast. Not our first podcast. He did his first podcast with us a while ago, talking about couch co-op games.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
And we brought him back on today, and we're going to talk about something pretty cool. And we're going to just hope it's going to go well because it's very unplanned. But first, we're going to turn it over to the worst half of What Do You Mean for our recap.
Right.
Of what we did in the past.
The more entertaining half, we streamed.
We streamed 2 days ago as of you hearing this.
If you're watching this
on Sunday.
Yes.
And if you are not listening on Sunday, but sometime in a few days after the fact,
then
we will stream later in the week. My face is contorting.
We're gonna
May 3rd, 2019, we will likely be streaming. And also at some point between April... What day is it today?
28th.
April 28th and May 3rd, we'll likely have an episode of Halo up. We kind of been staggering the episodes because we haven't had time to record a new session because we record them in bits and pieces. So that's where we're at with that. Hopefully more Halo between April 28th and May 3rd, but there will definitely be a stream on May 3rd unless one of us cannot make it. One or
definitely both. is a strong word, but yeah, we're gonna.
It will likely happen. I have nothing better to do on a Friday night, and there's that. So
wow.
Jay, is it for the recap?
We've recapped. We can move into the topic.
Yeah, we're gonna move into the topic,
which is
Jay. Would you like to mention the topic?
So the topic today is sports.
Yes. And that's it. That is literally we're gonna just go with that. We have not really. I mean, Jay, you have some stuff written down. Would you like to guide the conversation into the first of probably many canals that we're going to be traversing?
Yeah.
What an interesting way of phrasing that.
Where do you want to take this first, Jay?
I guess first thing on my list has to do with watching sports, which I think
might
be one of our main topics talking about tonight.
Okay, very good.
So the first thing I had on my list was my first heartbreak, which I think happened in middle school between February of 2008. Usually everybody's first heartbreak is like some person in high school or middle school.
Yes.
But mine was the New York Giants.
Oh, yeah.
The 2008-2007 Super Bowl.
I think it was the 2008 Super Bowl.
Yeah. 2008 Super Bowl where the Patriots lost their undefeated season.
Yep. Against the Giants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you watch that game, Jared?
I think so.
So that was the famous. Are you okay? So
yes,
before we continue further, and Jay and I know pretty significant amount. Jared knows like basic stuff, but maybe not like a historical like database like Jay and I probably
so what
are.
I know is the big names from when I was young,
which we'll get into.
Yeah, basically that's it. And so I have little to no knowledge of modern sports.
This is great. This dynamic is awesome. My question for you is, if I say in a football context, do you know what the catch is, or the helmet catch? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Absolutely not.
So, to set the stage, the 2000s...
The helmet catch.
That's what I said, the helmet catch.
Well, you said the catch.
Well, no, I corrected myself and said the helmet catch. The catch is a different... There is a quote-unquote the catch. But this is not this one.
That is not the
catch. Catch happened decades prior.
And
what was it? Was that Cowboys and 49ers?
49ers NFC Championship game.
Yep, in like 80-something. Yeah. So we're not talking about that catch. None of us were alive for that. The helmet catch happened in Super Bowl 2008. I don't know what the actual number was. The Patriots had gone 16-0 in the regular season.
I do remember that.
Steamrolled through the playoffs, and then lost the Super Bowl against the New York Giants, who were a wild card team. Almost didn't even make the playoffs, and we lost. I think the Giants went like 8-8 or 9-7 that season.
Yep. We stomped the Giants week 17 of that year.
Yep, and then we made to the Super Bowl, and we lost to the Giants. And so the helmet catch, a guy who, after the game, meant nothing in terms of, like, stats or anything. His name was David Tyree, wide receiver for the Giants. Would you like to...
catch it in his helmet?
Eli Manning, not the most athletic guy, somehow escaped the arms of, I believe, Richard Seymour, a couple of our linebackers, avoided like 2 or 3 sacks, and hucked the ball downfield into double or triple coverage.
Straight up prayer down the field, like, okay, here it goes. Someone catch it, please.
To David Tyree, and the ball essentially hit his helmet, and he somehow grabbed onto it with his hands and kept it on his helmet all the way to the ground.
He fell, and it was a complete pass.
Wow.
This was 3rd down, about 2 minutes left in the game. Caught it on the 20-yard line. The Giants wound up scoring a touchdown to take a 4-point lead, I think.
Yeah.
And the Patriots wound up not doing anything on their next drive. Essentially losing the perfect season.
And I'm fairly certain that the Patriots were almost a 2-touchdown favorite going into this game because, I mean, this is when we had Randy Moss. It was like that era.
Oh, yes.
So, like, this is like when we were just putting, like, you know, a perfect season has happened maybe 3 times, I think, ever. And only, I think, twice since the 16-game format came about. Or maybe...
It has never happened in the 16 games.
Okay, that's what it was, yeah.
The Miami Dolphins did it when it was 14 or 15 games. They were 17-0.
So wait, it's only happened once.
Yep.
Okay. No, you know, actually, the other one I'm thinking of is when the Buccaneers went 0-12, and they were the first team to go undefeated. Yeah. Winless seasons have happened a few times recently. The Cleveland Browns did it 2 seasons ago.
Yeah. Detroit.
Detroit did it in like 2000. I think it might have been in the same season, or maybe a season or two before or after the Patriots went undefeated.
Right.
And
I remember hearing about the Patriots going undefeated in the season, then losing, and I remember everyone was very upset. I remember watching the game, but I don't remember like actually watching it. Like I think I was at a Super Bowl party that was at a restaurant, so I was focused on eating, and then everyone was getting very, very upset in the restaurant.
And then go ahead, Jay.
So that was pretty much the season that kind of turned me on to football. I didn't watch the whole season, but I do remember watching the last couple of games as well as the playoffs that year. And I have so much respect for Randy Moss and what he did that year for us.
Yes.
Got 21 touchdowns.
He did his darndest.
He did. And it's a shame that year has been slightly tainted for him due to the fact that he dropped a ball that could have won them the game. But that is another thing I do remember from that Super Bowl.
So Randy Moss, talking about him, ruined my ability to play sports as a child.
Did you meet him personally?
Single-handedly. Because when I watched Randy Moss as a child, I was like, that is how you play sports. You just run, and then the really good thrower throws really far, and then you catch it. And that's how you play every sport. So that tainted my ability to play Frisbee. When I tried to play that in high school, I would just sprint down the field and hope that they would huck it all the way to me every time. And they were like trying to explain plays to me. And I was like, what do you mean plays? I just go fast and then catch it. And that's how we win. But the problem was I'm not Randy Moss, and nobody who would throw it was Tom Brady.
Yes.
So there wasn't... So yeah, that's how Randy Moss ruined my ability to play sports, just because I was like, oh, I'm just like Randy Moss, but I was not.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So that's just wonderful. A fun anecdote.
Yeah. And Patriots faced the Giants again in the Super Bowl, in the 2012 Super Bowl, and also lost that game going in as pretty heavy favorites again.
Yep. We gave up a wide open touchdown to somebody whose name is escaping me, but he was later arrested for accidentally discharging a firearm.
Yeah, that was Plaxico Burress.
Yeah, Plaxico Burress, and pretty sure he shot himself in the arm or foot.
He shot himself in the leg and then got jailed for 2 years because of it at a nightclub. Wow. Yes.
Yep,
I don't know what he's doing nowadays, but yes, Plaxico Burress.
That was the other man who did the Patriots dirty.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the year after that was the first full year that I was super excited to watch Patriots football. And first quarter of the year, Tom Brady tore his ACL.
Against the Kansas City Chiefs.
Against the Kansas City Chiefs. The Patriots wound up having a pretty good year that year.
They went 11-5
11-5 with Matt Castle, but we missed the playoffs, going 11-5.
It's the Dolphins won the division, and the Patriots didn't. So Matt Castle did his also darndest, and we still missed the playoffs.
But we were very good still.
Yeah.
Considering the fact that we lost who everyone considers the one reason that Patriots are good, and we didn't have that and still did like very well.
It's because Patriots have some good coaching.
Yes.
And I guess
Belichick.
We should also mention at this point that we are all Boston sports fans. I think it's pretty obvious judging by how we're talking about this now. But we didn't say that explicitly in the beginning.
That's true.
Yes, but it's also to clarify, we are from the New England area, so we have a reason to root for these teams.
It does make sense that we
we just can't help that we're all excellent at all times. All Boston sports teams made the playoffs in their respective seasons, like whether it's current or like last season.
I like how Noah saying excellent is probably the loudest thing in this so far.
Excellent.
Blowing up.
Yeah, it's not going to blow it up, I promise. We're just looking at the sound waves to those listening.
So this year, did the Celtics make it in?
They are currently in the playoffs. They made it to the semifinals of the Eastern Conference. They're going to be playing Toronto, Milwaukee Bucks, who are the number 1 seed in the conference.
Okay, so to explain some of my history of sports, I took a huge break from watching or keeping up with sports at all from approximately like middle school until like now. Until last year basically. None of my friends in middle school or high school watched sports at all, literally none, and so I was like, all right, and so I didn't. But when I was younger, so my era of sports was when Tom Brady and Randy Moss, and Will Fork was one of my favorites as well.
Yep.
And he was like at the peak of his game. And then on the Celtics, it was Pierce and Kevin Garnett,
Ray Allen,
and like
original
that
big three,
that kind of thing. And then on the Red Sox, it was Wakefield and
Tim Wakefield.
Yeah, like Pedroia was still there, but he was kind of like young and new. Ellsbury was on the team.
I love that you haven't even mentioned one particular person yet.
Oh, Big Papi.
Yeah,
I was getting
it's
there.
just funny that of all the people on that Red Sox era, you mentioned Tim Wakefield, who was literally at the back end of his career.
Yeah, well, because I remember now he was the which position was he again?
Well, he was a pitcher.
Right, that's what I thought.
And he was a knuckleballer.
I always got him mixed up with the third baseman for no reason, Mike Lowell. Yeah, and I don't know why. But then also, they had Drew, who for some unknown reason I hated.
No, there's
a lot of people
did hate him.
I just didn't know why. Like, I was a kid and I understood I had no reason. I just did not like him.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of like the era where I stopped watching. And now I'm starting to see, like, all of the people that I know and love leave those sports, like, over the last, like, 10 years, seeing Big Papi retire, seeing Kevin Garnett, and Paul Pierce is gone from the Celtics now as well. Like, all these people are leaving. In Bruins, who played yesterday, Chara is now old, and that's weird because
kicking it.
When I watched him, he was like this young, really fast, huge man who would literally destroy people against the boards at any given moment.
He still does it, but he has very little time to do that before he gets freaking gassed.
Yeah.
Still our first line defender.
Yeah. And so that's and like Will Fork is either retired or left the Patriots.
He played one season for the Houston Texans and then he hung it up.
Yeah, and so like it's big sad.
Yeah.
Pedroia is still around, but
he's one of the few.
Injured. Toby Ellsbury is still around, but he betrayed us.
Right. And he also barely plays too because he's always injured himself.
He's the other person on the Red Sox that I really loved when I used to play. I used to play like T-ball and coach pitch and like that kind of level of baseball was Dice K.
Oh wow!
Oh,
and
okay,
Dice K. It was solely because he had a red glove, and I thought that was really cool. And I bought a red glove. Because I was like, that's cool.
Okay.
He has a red glove. I'm going to have one.
All right. I think I want to use that as a segue to talk about what I want to talk about, which is entirely related. It's when I started watching baseball, which is my favorite sport. Mm-hmm. Football is very close nowadays, but baseball's always been, it was like my first sports love.
Right.
So I started watching baseball a couple years before that, probably 2005 or 2006, watching the Red Sox against the Tampa Bay Devil Rays, as they were known back then. So the team was pretty similar to what you described, but that was a little bit before Pedroia and Ellsbury. It was like Kevin Youkilis, Mike Lowell.
Oh, you
forget about your boy Manny
Ramirez, of course.
Gross.
You know,
Jonathan Papelbon.
Who we had Papelbon. Alex Cora was a player at that time.
Curt Schilling was still
Curt Schilling as well was on the team.
His last year was 2007.
Josh Beckett was my favorite pitcher back then. He had I don't know if you might be able to figure out what this means, but you would know it. He had a 12-6 curveball, which is just, it would drop so drastically, and he did not win Cy Young that year, which is, do you know what the Cy Young Award is? Best pitcher, essentially.
I knew it was for pitching. I didn't know.
He was my favorite pitcher back then. I love that era. Mike Lowell was my favorite player. He was just always such a consistently awesome player, good hitter and stuff. And then my favorite player became Dustin Pedroia, who is still like probably my all-time favorite Red Sox player, because he is just...
You got a bobblehead.
Yeah, my WWE champion Pedroia. I loved him. He was just like hilarious because he's such a small dude, but he has such a huge ego. Like, I forget, he has a nickname on the team. I don't remember what it is, but he's always been my favorite. Like, he won the MVP award in his second season, which was unprecedented. Kind of unlikely that even happened. But yeah, no, I loved that. And so, one of the things that I wanted to talk about was watching the Red Sox win the 2007 World Series against the Rockies. Because I watched that with my dad. I remember I was in my parents' room, and I think Matt Holliday was the last batter up against Papelbon. Papelbon struck him out, and I jumped into my dad's arms, and I will never forget it. Because I was so pumped, because like it was like I think my first full season of being a Red Sox fan.
Oh wow!
Watching that with my dad. So that was like my favorite era of being a Red Sox fan. And then one other thing I want to mention is the first Red Sox game I ever went to. I was in 4th grade, so probably 2000. God, how old are 4th graders? I don't know, like 9, 10, 9,
something like that. Yeah,
like 2007. I think it was probably the season that we won the World Series.
Well, if you know it's 2007, then do the math.
I was in 5th grade.
Well, no, I did the math. I said I was 9. I did the math.
Well, I was making sure.
So my first Red Sox game I ever went to was against the Seattle Mariners in 2007, and I went, and the game got rained out. I remember it was pouring when we got there. My dad and I got burgers, and we were just standing around waiting to see what was going to happen. And then they started going around saying, the game's called, the game's called. And I remember being so, like, distraught over it. So then, we drove home. I remember I ate chicken parmesan for dinner. I don't know why I remember that, but I do. I just remember that day so vividly because it was just such a big deal to me. And... the game got rescheduled. We went, and Daisuke was pitching that game, and he walked the first 4 batters.
Typical
so he allowed a run just by walking the first 4 batters.
I remember that game specifically.
And I remember talking to my dad, like, well, Dad, what's happening? Like, what? And my dad's like, it's going to be okay. And another vivid memory from that game is that David Ortiz was on first. Someone hit a grounder, and he was running towards second, and he was never going to make it. So what he did was, and this is something that he actually did. I saw it happen. He walked up to whoever the second baseman of the Mariners was at the time and just hugged him.
I do remember that game.
I was at that game, and So he hugged the second baseman, and I was like, what? This is so cool. And that's how he got out. He just hugged him. And it was hilarious.
I love Big Pop so much.
It's such a... Yeah, the Red Sox actually won the game. And since then, my dad and I have been to like 15 or so games since then. We try to go at least once a year. I'm going again on the 14th.
Nice.
Coincidentally against the Rockies. I can't
there
wait.
you go.
Yeah, so the Red Sox generally win. I think they'll only lost like 2 or 3 games in all the times I've seen them play.
Wow, that's lucky.
Yeah, I love the Red Sox so much. Those are just a few of my little Red Sox stories.
Yeah.
And it's been nice to watch them win 2 more World Series since, especially the 2013 one, which was super unlikely. No one even thought they were going to win.
After finishing last place in the division the
year
before.
When Shane Victorino was a freaking star for some reason in the playoffs. And yeah, and then obviously the Red Sox won the World Series last season. Absolutely dominant all season.
Which was the first time I had watched Red Sox at all in that span of time.
Yeah, and that was cool. We watched that crazy 17, 18 inning game that went like... we watched the entirety together, all 3 of us actually.
Yep.
And I don't know, I mean, I can't speak for you, but I feel like that was a moment in which you kind of got a little more into sports again, because you were... I wasn't expecting you to stay and watch the whole game, but you actually did. Unfortunately, the Red Sox lost, but...
Oh, that was just draining, having to be in that and then just have it end that way and just like, oh no.
Yeah, that game was insane. But Eovaldi did everything he could in that game for the Red Sox.
It's one of the greatest pitching performances of all time, where a starting pitcher comes in for relief and essentially pitches 7 perfect innings of baseball.
Yeah.
Phil, Max Muncy got a hold on.
Max Muncy. Yep. Yeah, that's my Red Sox stuff. Someone else can talk now. I just wanted to throw some of my favorite memories.
Yeah. So some of mine. So I have gone to, I believe, 5 Red Sox games so far. I have only been to 2 at Fenway Park, though.
Oh.
I have been to the Trop twice, which is home of the Tampa Bay Rays, for those of you that don't know.
Yep.
Their stadium, it's all right. Not the greatest. I went to a game back in 2007. It was actually John Lester's first start back.
Oh, we didn't even mention John Lester.
Yeah, John Lester, one of my favorite athletes of all time. It was his first start back after successfully battling and defeating cancer, so it was a really awesome moment. Get to see him pitch that game. And I remember it went to extra innings, and Manny Ramirez made an insane diving catch in the outfield to save the game. And then pretty sure David Ortiz hit a homer, something like that, an extra inning in typical clutch Big Papi fashion. But some of my other favorite moments. Oh, I've also been to Camden Yards in Baltimore before.
That's awesome.
I actually have too, which is really weird, but I saw a Red Sox game in Baltimore.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
If you have not been there, that stadium is actually really cool. Tickets are also pretty cheap there.
They were very cheap.
Yeah.
Especially because I think the year I went and saw them, whatever the Baltimore team is,
the Orioles
sucked.
They suck every season.
It was like one of their worst seasons, which is saying something. And so the tickets were like $20 at the door. Like we just walked up, like, why not? The Red Sox are here, might as well.
Yeah.
We didn't even like plan it. They just happened to be there.
I've only ever seen Fenway games. I'd like to travel at some point. Just to see, I'd love to see every stadium in the league at some point. That's a bucket list thing.
That's a cool bucket list thing.
I need to get on that.
Yeah.
I'm at 1 of 32 right now. But
you're nailing it, dude.
I would love to travel around and just see all the different stadiums, because it's just,
Yeah.
Fenway is a shithole entirely compared to well, it's a beautiful one. I want to say that
a beautiful shithole,
dude. That park is it only gets renovations when it's violating a safety measure. Like there's no, what are you making that face for? It's true. What?
Fenway Park is beautiful.
It is beautiful. That's what I said. God, you know how many times I've been there?
You did call it a shithole
because it is. It is. That's just objective truth.
A beautiful shithole.
Yeah, I love Fenway Park. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else to watch baseball.
Except you do want to be 31 other places to watch baseball.
But if I had, after having done, traveled all 31, I would want to watch games at Fenway at the end of the day, because that park means a lot to me.
I think Fenway, for me, something about Fenway is the atmosphere of Fenway has, like, something that when I went and saw the game in Baltimore, it just did not have the same feeling. It felt like a stadium, and Fenway feels like a nice little...
It's so...
small.
Yeah, it's just like intimate.
Yeah.
You know, like...
Yeah, that's the...
But here's the issue, is like if a person of size is next to you, they are spilling into your seat at Fenway Park. I've had it happen before, and it's unfortunate. Like, even like my dad, who is not an overweight guy, he's just a big dude. He's got like tree trunks for legs. He is very uncomfortable anywhere in that park. So we hope that we, like, whenever we buy tickets, that we get like ones that are like aisle seats, because just it's rough, and that's the issue. Because those seats are built for people that were living in 1913, for example. We are not the same size back then,
right?
Or now as we were back then.
Fair.
Alrighty. Well, getting back to some of my favorite Red Sox memories.
Sorry, Shay, you got me.
That's all right. So 2007 was definitely a big moment for me starting to watch baseball. I really started watching during that playoff run. I remember 2007, I'm pretty sure that's the year that Manny launched a homer off of K-Rod of the Angels to pretty much wrap up that sweep of the Angels.
That was his famous putting his arms up when he hit the ball. That he got a lot of flack for, but...
I love it.
Because he used to do that kind of thing where he would just, hit it and then not, try at all.
Yeah, no, it's really, I watched that game live, so, it's a very famous Boston moment.
Yeah, and then the American League Championship Series against the Cleveland Indians, they gave us a hell of a fight. They went up 3-1 against us, and I think my fondest memory of that series was...
I know what you're going to say, hopefully.
So the Red Sox loaded up the bases in the first inning to go to Manny and David Ortiz, who were both just absolutely raking that entire series. They both failed to score anybody, and up came J.D. Drew. Yep. Sorry, I believe I hit the microphone there.
That's okay.
Up came J.D. Drew, who we paid a shit ton of money and had not been performing up to standards.
He was making double digits in the millions that season.
Yep, which for 2007 was pretty good.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he hit a grand slam and basically made his money's worth all in that one swing.
Yep.
For that year.
Can I throw out one more thing about that series? Not to interrupt, but I don't want you to miss this part. I forget his name. Someone on the Indians before the series started said, or it was during the series when it was going back to Fenway for Game 6 and 7, said champagne tastes better on the road. Someone on the Indians said that.
Wasn't that CC Sabathia?
No, it wasn't. Hold on. I want to look it up because I have the name on top of my head. But I remember my dad said that's why you don't talk smack in sports, because you lose.
Especially to the New England sports are known for winning underdog scenarios. That's
all the time.
It was a thing, especially back then, that the Red Sox were the best players that they would ever be when there were 2 outs, and it was a clutch moment. That was what and same thing for the Patriots was Tom Brady's going to make an amazing pass when it's, 3rd down with a minute left, and you're going to, win the game off of it.
Yeah.
It might have been Ryan Garco that said that.
Garco.
But someone on that team said champagne tastes better on the road, and then they lost the series. Yeah.
And then I also fondly remember the insane catch that Coco Crisp had to wrap up that series.
Coco Crisp.
And the center field triangle.
Yeah.
What a mini Boston icon that guy was for a little bit.
And then the World Series, I fondly remember Josh Beckett striking out the side in the first inning of Game 1, and then Dustin Pedroia first pitch hitting a leadoff homer over the Green Monster in that series, which basically just set the pace for that entire World Series.
That just snowballed. And
Red Sox wound up sweeping the Rockies. I remember one game ended with Jonathan Papelbon picking off, I'm pretty sure it was Matt Holliday, off of first base to end the game, which also pretty similar thing happened in 2013 when Koji Uehara picked off, I think, Colton Wong to end one of the games in that World Series.
Yeah. And then Koji won the game.
Yep.
The one that won the World Series. I love Koji.
Yep. And then 2008 was also a very fond memorable year for me watching the Red Sox. It was really the first full year that I watched them. One of my favorite moments in Boston sports happened that year when John Lester got his no-hitter against the Kansas City Royals. Jacoby Ellsbury didn't win Rookie of the Year that year, but Evan Longoria did.
Evan Longoria.
And that was Dustin Pedroia's MVP year. I remember also watching every game of the playoffs that year. First round, we swept the Angels again. And I remember, actually, it was J.D. Drew hit a homer off of Francisco Rodriguez in one of those games to pretty much wrap up the series. And then that amazing hard-fought between both sides series that we played against the Tampa Bay Rays. The American League Championship Series, which unfortunately they wound up winning.
And then the Rays lost the World Series
to the Phillies. But that was an incredible series. I remember, for some reason, literally everyone on the Rays was just hitting homers left and right. B.J. Upton, Longoria, Carlos Pena. They're killing us that series.
You're bringing me back. I remember that team.
Yep, and Matt Garza just throwing gem after gem in that series against us, matched up with John Lester, who is, to date, probably one of the better playoff pitchers in MLB history.
Yeah, I think Lester is one of the more underrated pitchers of this era.
Yeah, he definitely is. And I remember Kevin Youkilis winning one of those games for us to send it to Game 6 in the Trop, and then we beat them. And then I remember Game 7, a tough game. We were down by 2 or 3, and I remember J.D. Drew came up with the bases loaded, and David Price made his first playoff appearance and struck out J.D. Drew swinging with the bases loaded. Damn. I don't know why, but I remember that. That was pretty much the knife in the coffin for the Red Sox that year.
And then David Price became a Red Sox 10 years later.
Yep.
And won a World Series with us.
That he did.
Yep. Speaking of that World Series, I have one more memory I want to throw out, and we can take. This memory is very recent. It was actually one of the games I went to last season. I went to 4 last season, and it was right after the trade deadline. It was when I saw Steve Pearce for the first time, who historically has just kind of been a hitter. He doesn't do much. He only has 50 career home runs, but he hit, I think, 3 home runs in the first game I saw him play in last season. I was like, who is this guy? What? He's coming up, and then so I just remember being so in awe of that. I was like, this is great. And then he ended up winning World Series MVP, probably one of the most unlikely World Series MVP winners of all time. Right. So that's my most fresh memory of the Red Sox game was just that happening, because that was just so cool, because I had no idea who Steve Pearce was, let alone didn't even realize that he was on the team after the trade deadline. Yeah. That's a fond memory. I just wanted to throw it out there.
I have one more, which is probably my most fond memory of going to a Red Sox game, or the Red Sox in general. 2012 it was. Me, my dad, and my brother went to the game that was on the actual trade deadline, and it was actually Kevin Youkilis's last game with the Boston Red Sox before being traded to the Chicago White Sox. And I remember we were we heard that it was a possibility that he might get traded that day. And I remember we saw something on, I think, MLB Trade Rumors that said he had officially been traded. And we saw his last at-bat where he hit a stand-up triple, and they brought him off the field. I think Pedroia had been given the day off, so they had him pinch run for him and then put somebody else in the field, probably Will Middlebrooks.
Middlebrooks.
Will Middlebrooks, the man who essentially stole Kevin Youkilis' job. Bobby Valentine loved him. Don't know why. Still hate Bobby Valentine.
What an era.
Yeah, gross.
Not a good era. But yeah, that is definitely one of my more fond memories of watching the Red Sox play baseball. Remember, they put a huge video montage on it, including that time that Kevin Youkilis charged the mound against a very young Rick Porcello and got his ass kicked by Rick Porcello.
Rick Porcello also became a Red Sox, and he's still currently won a Cy Young Award.
So I have a really old memory of watching a live Red Sox game, not in person, but on TV. Yeah. And that was actually, I was watching the game live where Curt Schilling pitched with the bloody sock.
Wow.
That game.
So you were
2004.
Yeah, I was really young. And I remember looking at my dad and being like, what's wrong with his foot? And my dad explained to me what was happening. And I was like, why is he still playing? And my dad was like, dude, I don't know. But I remember that being like such a cool moment because that was, I think, like the first time that's like one of my earliest memories, if not the earliest memory of like the Red Sox, is that Curt Schilling game, which is like one of the most famous, pitching stories of all time. And watching that live, I realized like, oh, these guys are like for real. Like this isn't a game to them. Like they're going so hard. Because before that, you're playing t-ball, you're like, I don't get it. Like, why are they paid millions of dollars? And it's like, that's why. But like, yeah, I think the other, like, I think I've seen the Red Sox 5 times, and like, I like going to the Red Sox games. I think I enjoy it with the people. So I'm kind of a social sports watcher. I don't really follow them very much unless it's with people. But I have gone to see one of each of the major sporting events. So I went and saw the Red Sox like 5 times, the Celtics and the Bruins each like 5 or 6 times. I saw the Patriots once, and then I saw the New England Revolution once in Gillette.
Boston Cannons?
No.
That's lacrosse, right?
Yep.
That's not a major sport. I hate to break it.
Dang.
It's not one of the 5. I'm sorry to tell you, but
Rip.
It was funny going to see the soccer game because I don't know why I was there. Like the people I went with, it was my friend who invited me. He was super into soccer. I was not at all.
Yeah.
And I was so bored watching this game that I was just mostly like wandering around looking at the merchandise like during the game, like not during like any break in the game at all. And then I got a shirt signed by one of the players. The shirt that I have that is signed by a New England Revolution player who I do not know his name. I do not know who signed it. It was a New England Patriots shirt that I got signed by a New England Revolution member. But yeah, that's one of my favorite memories, just walking away being like, why did I have him sign this?
I have one more memory that I want to talk about, because this is a pretty big one that I forgot, but I actually had the opportunity to go to David Ortiz's jersey retirement last season, which was a huge deal.
Wow.
I have videos on my phone of it, but I was working with my parents. We work in the same place, and my dad never talked about how much he wanted to go there. My mom's like, you want to go? And she just freaking whipped out her phone and bought us tickets.
Wow.
And we went like the next day. That was amazing.
Cool.
I got super choked up, more so than usual. For like, I'm not a very emotional dude, but it was just like watching a childhood hero of literally millions, like officially like getting, his jersey retired. Because, it was just, he did so much for a lot of people, and he's still so active in like the Boston community too, like this Boston sports and everything. I
think some of my favorite memes that surfaced around during the ALDS last year were the David Ortiz to Yankees lose memes and people like making songs out of it.
Yeah, yep.
Those are great.
Yep.
But and him and A-Rod being on like the same Fox Sports like
panel.
Panel. Pretty great watching their reactions after the Red Sox trounced the Yankees.
Yep.
Especially in that Brock Holt cycle game where we beat them like 20-2
in the playoffs.
Yeah. I guess hopefully Aaron Judge learned his lesson about playing New York, in the Boston Red Sox clubhouse after beating us in literally one game.
Yeah.
Sorry, Aaron Judge. You're a fucking goof.
Big Papi is by far my favorite Red Sox player. Like with ease, like no one is even close. I don't even really know why. It was just like he had such a personality of like being just a nice guy, and like everyone loved him. I never heard any like negative stuff about him, which there might be stuff, but I never heard it, and so like I think that also helped. But like every other baseball player, every year it was like, oh, they did this, or oh, they did that. And Big Papi was like, oh, he donated $1 million to charity. Oh, he started a foundation. Oh, he did. And I was like, look at this guy. Like, he's doing his best.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, there was a bit of a steroid scandal
at
one point. But I mean,
never proven guilty.
A lot of people were on that list. It wasn't just him. It was a different era of baseball, but I don't know. I don't know. I just throwing it out there.
Yeah. But I think he was just such an icon. And that was during a time where like I don't know if this is true of all sports, but from what I've talked to other people, like it's not really, but New England sports really keep their players for a long time and they become like a staple. Whereas I know, like, at least for some of the people I've talked to, like their teams switch people like just based on who's good at the moment, but we'll ride with people
for the most part. You know, like there's usually one or two big icons on like Boston sports teams that linger for quite a while, whether it's coaching or you know playing. Yeah, you know, like obviously Patriots have had Belichick and Brady for 2 decades now. Right. The Sox had Poppy, you know, Pedroia.
The Celtics had
Pierce.
And Garnett.
Basketball is different. There's like no loyalty in basketball.
There's no loyalty.
And like loyalty, like it's more so in hockey. Like we've had like Patrice Bergeron and
Bergeron and Chara have both been there for years. Because I remember playing a EA Sports hockey game.
EA Sports.
It's in the game.
It's in the game.
That game was probably like 2005 NHL like EA, and I remember them both being on there, which is the only reason I recognize their names. But then, like, when I went and saw them live and I saw Chara, I was like, oh my gosh, he is a humongous being. What is that?
He's like 7 feet tall on skates.
It's crazy.
It's ridiculous, yeah.
Maybe that would be a good transition. I have a few fond Bruins memories. I'm not sure if you guys are quite as into hockey as I am.
I will watch playoff hockey, but I do not follow hockey. I'll look at the standings and stuff, but... I've never been to a Bruins game, and like I like the Bruins. I just out of the 4 like huge sports, it's the one I pay attention to by far, like the least.
When you say 4 huge sports,
not soccer.
Okay, even though that is technically the biggest.
Not in America.
If we have any European listeners, then Noah's probably gonna get jumped later.
Yeah, I was gonna say, out of like that's actually the biggest sport.
American sports.
Yeah,
we can't argue against that. It's football, baseball, hockey, and basketball.
Yeah, football, baseball, hockey, and lacrosse.
Sure.
All right, just talk about the Bruins.
Yeah, so the Bruins. 2011 was really the year that really got me into hockey. That Stanley Cup run that they had. That was such a fun and different team that the Bruins had that year. I was talking about this with somebody. I think, somebody. I don't remember who, but that Bruins team was just so physical and fun to watch. And, like, if you got into a fight with any of them, it's like you're going to get the shit beaten out of you. A few people that I really miss from that team, Milan Lucic.
Yep.
Such a fun guy to watch and one of those really hard bruiser type hockey players. I remember watching him just absolutely demolish somebody from the Montreal Canadiens in the third period of one game. In the regular season that year, after the Bruins were up like 7-1. By the way, for those of you that don't know, Montreal Canadiens are our main rivals, and especially back then, we absolutely hated each other. So it was a lot of fun watching the Bruins in the first round of those playoffs play the Canadians, who played us tough, brought it to Game 7, overtime, and Nathan Horton just burying it past Carey Price, almost said David Price. Price. And then sweeping the Flyers and reversing the damage that was done in 2010 when we were up 3-0.
I remember that. Yep. I do remember that, actually.
We were up 3-0 on the Flyers, and we wound up losing that series. We were also up 3-0 in Game 7 and lost 4-3. So, lost Game 7 4-3 and the series 4-3.
Yep.
Wow.
After
I actually
being
do
up
remember
3-0 in both. So, we reversed it, and we wound up sweeping the Flyers. And then we played the Tampa Bay Lightning, who, for not being in the greatest sports city, have always been consistently one of the better teams in the NHL, especially in the Eastern Conference. They played us pretty tough to Game 7, and then the Stanley Cup final against the Vancouver Canucks. That was such a fun and physical series. You don't really see a whole lot of physicality in the playoffs, especially like fighting and stuff like that, but there was a lot of it in that series. Could really tell that the two teams both wanted it badly and kind of wound up hating each other by the end of the series. I remember Alex Burrows biting Patrice Bergeron in Game 1 of that series, and then Milan Lucic decking him later on in the series. And the hit against Nathan Horton, that's sucked for the Bruins, but that series was so much fun to watch and really got me turned me into a hockey fan. I remember we were down 2-0 in that series, and the Canucks were bragging on and on about how much the Bruins sucked and how much they were going to destroy us. And then we scored 5 goals in the first period of Game 3.
Cool.
Really shut them up right there and wound up winning that game, I think 8-1 or 9-1.
Wow.
But that series overall was fun to watch. And then we came out in Game 7. Remember Nathan Horton, who got knocked out of the series with a really bad concussion. It was like his first time in the building. He took some ice from the rink back in Boston, and it turned into water, and he squirted it on the ice in Vancouver to be like, this is our home ice, not yours.
Ooh.
And then I remember we wound up beating them 3-0 or 4-0. Tim Thomas played a great game. And then I remember Vancouver couldn't handle it, and there were riots in Vancouver after the Bruins won the Stanley Cup in Vancouver.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man, those are some pretty vivid memories.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I really have been saying for years I wanted to get more into hockey. Maybe now's the time to do that.
Yeah.
While the Bruins are on another Stanley Cup run,
They have a good path right now to the
last night was a good
Stanley
game.
Cup finals.
I mean,
It was.
last night's game was actually pretty physical overall.
Mhm.
I don't know how much of it you ended up watching, but there was a lot of, the refs were pretty lenient in what was going on. Like, Char, at one point, there was just, a puck that was kind of just, against the boards, and there's 4 people, 2 from each team going for it, and Char literally was grabbing someone's head trying to get the puck out.
Yeah.
And no penalties were called.
I did see
they
that.
were just letting them do it.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
That was on their that beautiful penalty kill that they had, right?
Yeah.
Where they didn't have any shots on goal against the Bruins.
Yeah, I'd really like to get more into hockey. Hopefully I can actually commit to doing that, because I don't watch basketball, but I follow it very heavily. I want to start doing the same for hockey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then 2013 was also a really fun year to watch. The Stanley Cup run that they had that year was a lot of fun. It's just a shame that they didn't wind up winning it.
Didn't they play against Chicago?
Yep, that was the Stanley Cup against the Chicago Blackhawks, where we had a goal lead with about a minute left in the game to force Game 7, and then the Blackhawks wound up scoring 2 goals in 15 seconds against Tuukka Rask to wrap up that series. But I remember that being a really powerful and meaningful playoff run for Boston, because that was right after the marathon bombings and the whole kind of thing throughout Boston sports area was kind of the Boston strong thing.
Mm-hmm.
So luckily the Red Sox wound up finishing up their playoff run that year. But that playoff run was a lot of fun to watch. I remember the Bruins being down 3 goals with 8 minutes left in Game 7 of the first round against the Maple Leafs, and they scored 4 unanswered goals to win the game.
Wow.
And then we swept the Pittsburgh Penguins. Tuukka Rask actually almost got into a fight with Sidney Crosby. He still hates Sidney Crosby. He's a little bitch, but that's okay. But, yeah.
I have one fond hockey memory.
Okay.
And this was not a normal Bruins game, but it did have Bruins players. I went to see an alumni game of the Bruins against a firefighter and police officer town team for a fundraiser for some cancer association. And Terry O'Reilly was one of the Bruins alumni, which was really cool, and he signed some stuff for me. He's one of the very big, and he was known for being extremely physical, one of the highest penalties of all time. He would just get penalties all the time. But he was they basically were playing around with this other team because they're professional hockey players, whether or not they're retired, they're professional hockey players. And so at one point, this is my favorite memory, was the goalie for the alumni Bruins stayed on the ice. The rest of the team left, and the goalie just single-handedly was playing against the entire town team, which was just a really fun little joking around thing where he was with the goalie stick burning past people and doing all these stupid little tricks where he'd lift the puck over their stick, and they're like, what the heck's going on? He's wearing all the goalie pads, and then he scored 3 goals like that. where he would like face off with just an empty net and then like play the entire team and score a goal, and like it was just really fun.
See,
So, that's my hockey memory. That's my one.
Well, I'll use that kind of like not analogy, but that story to like transition into a little bit about basketball.
Yeah.
Because it's just funny that you bring that up about like, you know, whether or not you're a professional, you can school anybody. And so the person that reminds me of is Brian Scalabrine.
The White Mamba.
The White Mamba. Do you know who that is?
I've heard of him, yeah.
He was a ginger. I'll start with that.
Yep.
Basketball player who actually went the first round of his draft back in like the early 2000s. Was really not that great of a player.
No, he wasn't.
He was just like kind of a meme, really. He's embraced the meme nowadays. But, you know, it's just, I don't know if this actually happened or not, but I remember listening on the radio about like how Brian Scalabrine like 3v1 or 5v1 like just like a group of like guys who like were like, you know, street ballers basically, and he just schooled them because he's still a professional basketball player.
Yeah.
He may have not been that good in the pros, but like how skilled he is at that game.
Anybody.
Right.
He could school anybody who didn't play professional basketball.
Exactly. Like it's just funny, like, you know, when you're playing amongst other pros, like your skills kind of, you know, don't always shine through.
Right.
But you could probably put the three of us and a few of our friends against him, and he'd handily beat us. You know, it's.
I mean, I am 5'5", so I think that might have.
Yeah, Scalabrine is a tall dude. I'm pretty sure he's like 6'8" or
impact.
something like that.
Yeah, I actually have something that's kind of similar to that. That has to do with lacrosse. So when I was in high school, my parents sent me to Boston Cannons, which are the professional, in air quotes, lacrosse team in the New England area. They play at Gillette Stadium, and they had Paul Rabel at that camp, who is really the most. If you know any lacrosse player, then it's Paul Rabel. He's considered as like the greatest of all time.
I know all about him.
Actually?
No.
Oh. Well, anyways, he's considered like the greatest of all time, and he played for the Boston Cannons for probably 10 years or so.
Wow.
He's still around, I think, playing for the New York team, whatever they're called.
Gross.
See, I don't even know that much about the professional lacrosse league. Yeah, in air quotes again, professional. But he was at that camp, and he like challenged 11 of us to a 1v11 game against us, and he demolished us. And I was the goalie, because I played goalie, and I remember being absolutely terrified that he was going to come at me with like a 110, 115 mile per hour shot. Luckily he didn't. He just kind of schooled me with his stick and faked me out a whole bunch of times.
Oh,
and
good.
Pretty sure in like 2 minutes the score was like 5 or 6-0.
So Paul Rabel no longer plays professionally.
Ooh.
Last time he played, doesn't say, but the last team he played for was the New York Lizards.
Yep, the New York Lizards.
So he went from Boston to New York.
He did.
They
offered him more money.
It is pretty cool that you got to play against like the legend of that sport. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, even if you were doing it, you know, in a sport that's even less like even less than that. If you're looking at like curling, if you're playing against the best curler of all time, it's still cool. Like that's still a cool
Go to
like,
Canada,
experience.
you'd be like a legend.
Right. If you win. If you had beat him.
Olympic curling is hilariously fun to watch.
There-
My mom is so entranced by it. If you ever get her talking about it, she doesn't know Olympic curling, like, you know, curling, but she'll watch Olympic curling and she loves it.
That's great.
It's
Yeah,
hilarious.
there is a retired team of NFL players right now, or a team of retired NFL players who are actually trying to qualify for the Olympics in curling.
Hilarious.
And it's being like headed by Jared Allen.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I watched a documentary about it on SportsCenter.
That is
Wow.
hilarious.
The things that they have documentaries about on SportsCenter, you'd be surprised just watching at 6 a.m. and you wake up to see Jared Allen curling and trying to make the Olympics.
That's hilarious.
That's phenomenal.
But anyways, back to basketball.
Yes.
I believe Noah was starting to talk about.
Oh, I mean, I guess I didn't have a whole lot to say.
I have something about basketball history.
Okay.
So, which is we're talking about Olympics, which is the Olympic basketball team that America put out for like the few years that they were allowed to do so, where they would just put the all-star like NBA team against everyone else and just demolish. Like, it was not close.
Yeah, I mean, like, that still happens.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it still happens, but not as bad, because now players are able to, like, go back to their to play for their country that they come from.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, back then it was literally like we would just take the all-star team, put them in the Olympics, and everyone else had, like, the equivalent of the minor leagues of the NBA. The people that we would scout for their best players, you know, so they're the ones that didn't make it. They'd be the ones playing against us. And for those, like, couple years, it was literally like watching, like, a team of alumni Bruins play against firefighters. They would just school people. It would be, like, 100 to 50 scores, like, just crazy, which I think is really funny. Personally, but the other countries definitely did not, and that is why it is no longer allowed to do that. So, yeah.
They're the Olympic basketball dream team.
Yeah.
The 1992 men's basketball team had Patrick
Leitner.
Ewing, Christian Leitner, Larry Bird, Scottie Pippen,
Magic Johnson,
Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Charles Barkley, Karl Malone,
I think John Stockton,
I think a few others.
Chris Mullin, who's one of the greatest 3-point shooters.
And they literally just, let's see, their first game against Cuba, 136 to 57.
Yeah.
And they won the championship game 127 to 80.
It's just so funny unfair to me that they put, like, literally people that normally were adversaries, like Larry Bird and Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson were always, like, compared. They were, like, the three that everyone was like, ooh, who's the best?
Yeah.
And just putting all three of them on one team and then just seeing them just crush. Like, that is unheard of, going, like, 136 to 58. Like, literally over double the score of the other team. That's crazy.
Yep. Michael Jordan averaged 12.7 points a game.
Just 12.7, because everybody...
Not many of them played that many minutes.
Like, Christian Leitner barely played, because Christian Leitner didn't even play a pro game at that point. He was out of college, and they just put him on the team, which was...
Can you imagine being him, though, and just, like, stepping onto the Olympic Stadium and just being surrounded
looking to your left and right, and you see, like,
Larry Bird,
I think
Magic
Hakeem
Johnson.
Olajuwon was on that team as well.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Their starting lineup was Barkley, Bird, Johnson, Jordan, Scottie Pippen.
That's just absurd. Which I love that. Like, that's one of my favorite, like, just facts about sports history is when that happened and they just allowed that for no reason. It's like there was no chance that anyone had of beating that team, but they just, like, played anyway.
Mm-hmm.
That's, like, what I just wanted to share that. It's one of my favorite just sports in general facts.
Yeah, and then I'm pretty sure there's the 2012 Dream Team.
There was a 2012 Dream Team.
LeBron, Dwayne Wade, Kevin Durant, Carmelo Anthony, back when they were all in their prime.
Yeah,
Dwight Howard.
The thing is, like, my dad and I talked about this extensively, but, like, basketball is so different that, like, if the 2012 Dream Team played against the 1992 Dream Team, the 1992 Dream Team would school them time and time again. Like, those old school physical ballers, like...
Yep.
Well, and I actually know a surprising amount about the history of basketball. So... It, like, when Larry Bird was always compared to Magic Johnson, it was, even that, they were of different, like, generations of basketball, even. So Magic Johnson was, like, the first person to really, like, just go for pure athletic, like, play. He was, like, very fast, and Larry Bird and the Celtics at the time were, like, one of the best teams with Larry Bird. Obviously, that's fucking easy to do. And they played very smart, strategic basketball, which just doesn't really happen anymore in the NBA. You just don't see it. Like, it's all about sprinting back and forth. It's whoever has the highest jump, the tallest players. But back then, it was like it would be these, like, back and forth, like, chess games.
Well, that's when plays were actually a thing in basketball, like, where people were going to be at what time and stuff.
Like, when we went and saw one of the games recently. It was like I actually, like a college level game, I actually saw it more in that than I see it in the NBA. Probably because they don't have the athletic skill to just like raw skill through the game. But I actually saw them like calling plays, and I was like, "What is this?" Like,
if you put one of those well-coached teams of the 90s, 80s up against
any
team, like people are trying to make comparison against that Golden State team that broke the Chicago Bulls win record. If you put those two teams up against each other, the Chicago Bulls would destroy them.
Yeah.
Right.
Also, a big thing nowadays is defense really isn't that much of a thing anymore in the NBA. Back then, it was huge. You can't play physical anymore.
Yeah.
But that team would just defensively demolish any team.
I would have loved to have like lived during that time to see, the 1980s basketball.
Just that was
so gritty and
like somebody putting up 50, 60 points nowadays is pretty impressive. Like Kevin Durant scored 50 points, I think, last night. To finish off the Clippers. But back then, when defense was so physical, like Michael Jordan dropping 50 points with the flu in a defensive heavy league, that's just insane.
Yeah, and so that's when my dad was watching basketball. So he's a bigger basketball fan than I'll ever be, just based on what basketball was. Like, he got to see the prime era, the best era of basketball just ever. Like, he saw all of the great players play, like Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, all of these people who were on that dream team, the original dream team. He actually got to watch that, whereas like we get like really good players, but it's just not the same game. So
it's kind of the same thing that's happening with the NFL too. Like they're making it harder for defensive players to actually be able to play defense,
right?
Especially secondaries. Like you can't touch a wide receiver, can't touch the quarterback. Like I remember I was laughing about it. One of the roughing the passer calls that got called against Brady in either the AFC Championship game or the Super Bowl, or like they just barely touched him. That was laughable, but it's kind of the same thing that's happening in the NBA and NFL. It's getting harder to play defense or making it less physical.
One of my favorite defensive plays just of all time in any sport was Will Fork pushing two linemen by himself down the field. And like that is something that just like that's a feat of like human just strength. Like you can't like beat that with anything. And so but like he was probably in reality like holding and like doing a bunch of shit that nowadays would be called like right away. But it was just so cool to watch. Like that would never happen.
I have to find that video because you've talked about that before.
And you remember that one?
Yep.
Yeah.
One of my favorite Vince Wilfork memories was his interception.
Yep, his interception. And then my favorite is the one where he picked up the ball.
Yep.
Just because it was like a rookie on the other team just put it down after the play, but the ref never blew the whistle. And Wilfork, you literally see him like look around him, like pick it up and just like hustle as fast as he can.
Big boy could run.
This 350-pound like.
Can you imagine somebody that size like running 12 or 15 miles an hour, like trying to take him down?
You just can't. Like
no.
It's like when they used to bring in the refrigerator to score like touchdowns from the 1 or 2 yard line.
Just
William the Refrigerator Perry.
Pretty sure he scored a touchdown against us in the Super Bowl.
No. When he was on the Bears, was he on that team?
Yeah, when the Patriots got smacked by the Bears in like the 1980s
I have
Super
a
Bowl.
friend who is that big, and he, for part of a play, he had to like run at me and get stopped by all these guys, by 5 dudes. And the 5 dudes were all super scrawny and like a foot shorter than him, and he was joking around with our director like, this would never stop me, and she was like, yeah, they could. And so as he
tested it.
Yeah, he did 2 tests. One in which he started standing still and then ran with them already holding him, and the second he started running and had them try to stop.
Oh God.
None of them. It was all 5 of them from a standstill couldn't stop him. So I can't even imagine, and he's not like an athlete. I can't imagine 350-pound Vince Wilfork of muscle running already at 15 miles an hour. If you touch him, that's like hitting a train. Like, you're not gonna stop that.
Yeah, I think another one of my favorite memories is Mike Vrabel's punt return that he had.
Mike, oh my God.
Yeah, I think I remember that.
Mike,
Yep.
now he's coaching the Lions, right?
Yeah. Yep. No,
not
Titans.
Yes,
Titans.
Thank you. Patricia's on the Lions. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
That's a.
We're closing. Well, we are not closing. We are past an hour, so how about we get some final remarks out if needed, and then we'll call it a day on.
I guess
this
I'll go
edition.
first because I probably have the least. I just think that New England sports are wherever you are, they're really fun to watch because there is so much heart in them. There are a lot of sports teams in areas where like it just doesn't matter, and even if they're really good, it's not like that's not the point. So like in New England, there's just so much investment in sports that it's super fun to watch. It's like any movie, really. It's like there's so much passion behind it. So I think it's just good entertainment.
Yeah. Yeah, I think as New England sports fans, we definitely are blessed to be in the era of Tom Brady, the Red Sox reversing the curse, Bruins winning a Stanley Cup, and we've won, 6 Super Bowls now?
Yeah. Yep, six Super Bowls in less than 20 years.
4 World Series,
Stanley
Cup, and an NBA championship, 12 titles since 2001. Definitely an amazing era to be a Boston sports fan.
Absolutely.
Yep, definitely different than the era that our parents grew up in, where
Right.
no championships were had unless... I think the Bruins won one in the 80s, and the Celtics were obviously pretty good in the 80s,
Right.
but other than that,
80s, 90s,
a lot of pain.
Rough era.
Yep.
They were really the one that was the era where it was reversed. Like basketball and Bruins were like they were killing it, and the Red Sox and the Patriots. No.
I don't even think the Bruins were that good then. I think they won a Stanley Cup, but they were kind of just middle of the pack most of the time.
But I mean, now they're it's really questionable. Some years we do really well, and other years.
I mean, most years each team makes a playoff run. Sometimes the Bruins don't get there, and sometimes the Red Sox don't.
Sometimes the Celtics don't. I think they missed a couple years.
Recently, the Celtics are pretty stacked up.
Yeah.
But
since we got Kyrie,
it's a good era to be a Boston sports fan, and
definitely
it's gonna suck when Brady leaves because we just drafted a new quarterback out of Auburn.
Did we?
What is his name? His name's Jeter or something like that. Jarrett, I think actually Jarrett something.
Okay.
Out of Auburn in the 4th round.
I think the Patriots should have used their 1st round pick to draft Drew Lock instead of the wide receiver they drafted, Drew Lock.
Oh, I didn't follow the draft.
He was a lot of scouts were saying that he was the most talented quarterback in the draft, but for some reason the Arizona Cardinals just really wanted Kyler Murray. Still doesn't make sense to me. But it's going to be interesting, the AFC East, these upcoming 5-10 years.
I think the Jets are going to possibly be a wild card team this year.
The other quarterbacks, all second years, all have a ton of potential. Josh Allen, he's been getting a lot of regards towards Steve Young. Yep. Obviously, he didn't quite look like that last year, but Sam Darnold definitely has a lot of potential, and Josh Rosen has a lot of potential. I don't think Arizona was using it right, but so it's going to be interesting watching those 3 guys come up and the Brady era coming to an end.
Yep.
Yeah,
in the East.
We have to really. It's going to be.
Of the cherish our. Yeah. Really cherish this upcoming season because we don't. I mean, Brady.
Who knows?
Seriously.
The other thing is if Brady gets injured, every time he gets injured, even minorly, it's a question whether he comes back because he's old. He just does not heal like he used to.
Yeah. Luckily, we've been really lucky when it comes to his health. Only one major injury in his career that really made him miss significant time. Yep. Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
But yeah, definitely has been a fantastic era for New England sports.
Yes.
We are super lucky.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll call it there. We could have gone on for quite a long time, but we got some stuff to do today.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming, Jay.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can get you on for another one at some point.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Let's go Boston Cannons.
That was episode 9 of the podcast.
Stream on Friday.
Stream on Friday the 3rd if you're watching this before the 3rd. Friday the 3rd of May, we should clarify.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Say bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.